Since some of you were absent from class last week, I wanted to make a short video to review how to integrate source material into the essay. So this is a handout that was given to you in class called Integrating Source Material, and it just goes through a couple of samples for you. Imagine you're trying to use an article, and the author's name is Paula Kelso. Here's the title of her article, Behind the Curtain, the Body, Control, and Ballet. And her thesis, which I've lifted word for word from her article, says this: however, in the shadows of the spotlight lurks an abusive world of eating disorders, verbal harassment, fierce competition, and injured, fatigued, and malnourished dancers. This is a thesis in her essay specifically about what's happening to ballet dancers, to those who participate in ballet, and how they're being abused. So before I use this article for the first time, I need to introduce it. This is part of how I earn ethos in my essay. So I could use a sentence like this to introduce Kelso's article. Paula Kelso, in her essay Behind the Curtain, the Body, Control, and Ballet, exposes the dark underworld of ballet where dancers suffer physically and psychologically at the hands of directors and teachers. So I've taken her thesis and the basic concept behind her essay, and I've put it into my own words. Now my reader knows not only what the name of the article is that I'm going to be using and who the author is, but I know what it's basically about and what Kelso's argument is trying to say. You need to be unbiased and balanced and fair in your representation of what an article means. You don't want to lie about it. That will lose ethos for you, because interested readers will look up the sources you're using and see if you use them fairly. So the rest of the handout that I gave you talks about how to build a paragraph when you quote, and we've been over this before, I know, but you want to begin with the topic sentence and then explain that topic sentence. You've heard me in class refer to this as the 5th grade sentence. Imagine that you're speaking to a 5th grader. So you've shared your topic sentence, but now imagine your reader's confused and you need to just explain that a little more clearly, perhaps just through logic or an example or an illustration. And then if you're going to use an article for the first time, you need to introduce it, just like this example up here involving Paula Kelso's article. After you've introduced it, you can go ahead and quote it or paraphrase. Either one is fine. You'll want to use a signal phrase. Kelso says, Kelso states, Kelso explains. Here I use the last name Jones, but whatever your author's last name is. Please note, once you have introduced a source, only refer to the author by the last name, and you should be referring to the author. Don't just say the article or that one article or the article called. Just refer to the author's last name the next time you refer to the article. And you only have to introduce the article once. The name of an article should only appear in your essay one time. After you have quoted, you need to explain or interpret quoted material. You never want to end a paragraph with a quote or paraphrase. Always tie it back in. In fact, what this sentence should be doing, your explanation or your interpretation of quotations and paraphrases, should be reinforcing your claim in this paragraph. So whatever it is you were saying in your topic sentence at the beginning, you need to reinforce that after you're using evidence. So if I'm going to be writing a paper about child marriage and my claim for a paragraph, my topic sentence, says that child marriage is often used to protect abusers and rapists, then after I quote some evidence for that from a source, I need to explain how that information that I just quoted actually supports my claim for the paragraph. At the end of this paragraph, really at the end of the main point, you need to explain how this particular claim is reinforcing the overall thesis of your paper. So I've given you a sample paragraph right here. Let's read our topic sentence. The United States has a serious problem with image and weight when it comes to women, a problem that reaches beyond the pages of checkout aisle magazine covers. So this is in an imaginary paper about problems in the world of ballet. I'm going to explain my topic sentence. I just can't assume that a reader reads this sentence and says, oh, okay, a serious problem with image and weight. Got it. They might not know particularly where I'm headed with this, so I'll explain further. The beauty myth is further compounded in professional industries such as dance companies. Now I'm going to introduce my source. Paula Kelso, in her essay Behind the Curtain, The Body, Control, and Ballet, exposes the dark underworld of ballet where dancers suffer physically and psychologically at the hands of directors and teachers. And now I'll quote that source material. I could paraphrase, but I'll be quoting here, and you need to set this up with a signal phrase. She says, another myth is that this unhealthy body is the only body capable of the technical feats that ballet requires. And that's from page 551. Now, I'm actually going to paraphrase in addition to the quote. Kelso also explains that not only do male dancers prefer heavier dance partners, but outside the United States, the most successful dance companies feature heavier female ballet dancers. And that paraphrase comes from page 551 as well. Now I will explain or interpret my quoted and paraphrased evidence. She makes a compelling case for an obsession with weight and appearance that is uniquely American in regards to ballet. And the last thing I want to do is reinforce my overall thesis. So this last sentence is intended to tie this main point into my overall argument in the paper. Like so many industries, for example, Hollywood, modeling agencies, children's toys, ballet also reinforces a psychosocial disease that plagues and endangers girls and women throughout the country. Okay, so this paragraph belongs to a hypothetical essay about how an unhealthy body image is reinforced in the United States. You can see that idea reinforced in the closing sentence of the paragraph. You can see it particularly here about psychosocial disease that plagues and endangers girls throughout this country. All right, now on that handout there was an exercise given to you, and we did that during class, so there's no reason to redo that here, no reason to duplicate that effort. I do want to zip over very quickly though to the Lee Library page and just show you a couple of quick things. Let's imagine for a moment that I am researching immigration policies in the United States. So let me submit that topic. All right, and I come up with my list of sources. There's 15,493. Now, I've actually looked at this before, and I managed to narrow it down to 169. I checked full text and peer review. I changed the language to English, narrowed it to 2017, and I specifically wanted information about the Mexican-American border region. So I have this list of sources here. Now, if I'm going to select one of these, of course we've talked about this before, you can just click on it and it will open up a link for you. I've already logged in, so that's why it's not prompting me again. I will point out here that, if I can slide my web browser over just a little, I'm sure most of you have been using this, but if you haven't, it comes in super handy, and it's this little cite function. So let's say I've read over my abstract. I know this is something I want to use. I don't really feel like reading the entire article now, but I'm finishing up my annotated bibliography, and I want to cite this source. There's a citation generator right here on the page. Make sure you scroll down. There's lots of different formats here for citing this source. If you are in an education course, you might be interested in APA. But for our class, we'll be using MLA, which is located right here. So the really nice thing about using a citation generator is it produces all the information that you need and gives it to you pretty easily. So I can just copy that. Now if I open up a Microsoft Word document, I can paste it. I need to add an access date, however, because it doesn't automatically give me one of those. So today happens to be the 15th of October. Okay. The last thing you'll want to do, of course, you want to make sure you're using all the same font, and since your essay is supposed to be in Times New Roman, size 12, and it's supposed to be double-spaced. Let's imagine for a moment that we have multiple entries. I'm just going to copy and paste the same one over and over again. But if this is my Works Cited list, then I want to make sure Works Cited is centered at the top of the page. Okay. But the rest of these entries I can select. And I know this looks a little different on everyone's word processor. It just depends on what you're using. For me, I will go to, let's see, I thought it was layout. Maybe it's design. Format. I'll go to paragraph. It looks a little different on your computers, I'm sure. But it's still going to be the same functions. 1/2 inch for hanging. I select OK. Now everything's automatically indented. So if you need some help with citation, I highly recommend going to the Purdue OWL website. This contains directions for all different possibilities for citing. There's an MLA formatting and style guide available here. If you're using databases or websites, then you'll want to click on the Electronic Sources tab, and you'll notice they explain everything. Basic style for citations of electronic sources, citing an entire website. What if you only want to cite one page of a website? Perhaps you have an electronic book you're using. If we come on down, an article on a website, scholarly journal. Here we go. So if you are using databases, this is likely what you will need to look up for how to put together your Works Cited entry. And I see that I actually made a tiny error here. Okay, so we'll want to fix that for all those. Okay, hopefully that is helpful for you, but if you've not been on the Purdue OWL MLA page yet, it can be extremely helpful. All right, looking forward to seeing the outlines and eventually those drafts. So if you're not done researching, put together as much as you can between now and next Thursday when your outlines due.